With Superman coming out, I thought it was finally time to talk about Creature Commandos, and I have some more complicated thoughts on it than what I expected after the finale. Creature Commandos was a show that I was pretty excited for, especially when the trailers were coming out. I really do like a lot of James Gunn's previous work, and while it can sometimes get a little crude and some of the jokes don't always land, Gunn gets it right like 90% of the time when it comes to comic book media, so my expectations were somewhat high going in. Spoilers ahead, moving forward, I'm going to talk about the entire season of Creature Commandos here. So, first of all, I like the way the show structures itself, but there's a little asterisk at the end of that sentence that we'll come back to later. It's a smart idea to layer each character's backstory onto an episode as it goes along. It really allowed time for each character to get fleshed out while still keeping the story moving at a consistent pace. The backstories were easily my favorite part of the narrative. Each of them are tragic and helps you understand why these characters act the way that they do. Weasel's story in particular was absolutely heart-wrenching. However, my one issue with the backstories is that I sometimes feel like they're trying a little bit too hard to be devastating.
You were the greatest gift.
Well, I like all of them. I don't think that every single one of them needed to be a pure tragedy. Another backstory along the lines of like G.I. Robot, where he does lose something, his boys, but also has moments of levity. I don't mind the intense tragedy, but when it's every single character getting the worst possible thing done to them, it can feel a little monotonous. Individually, all these stories were honestly great, but I just wanted a stronger mix of backstory types. I do understand that each character's backstory is tragic to portray that the world doesn't understand monsters, but I think that you can still portray that in each of the stories without taking the tragedy to the level that these stories do. I do also wish that the backstories were more directly relevant to the main plot, but I also understand how short of a show this is, so that might have been hard to pull off. But I really like the way that the bride's backstory was essentially the catalyst for a main plot point in the current day, and I would have liked to see more of that.
My love, the princess.
But even that plotline doesn't really go anywhere.
Paramour of yours?
We follow Frankenstein throughout the entire show, and then when he finally reunites with the bride, she shoots him in a 4-second clip, and then it's over.
Save it for hell, you stalker piece of shit.
We do see him survive at the end, so maybe that's a setup for season 2, but other than his interactions with Rick, which were fun, he didn't really have much of a purpose. Most of my complicated thoughts come from the final episode recontextualizing them. When watching the finale, I noticed that I don't really think the team interacted much outside of Nina and the bride. Part of that comes from G.I. Robot dying so soon and the fact that Weasel can't speak, but Phosphorus interacting with the girls at the end felt like one of the first interactions they had together, and it was really refreshing until I realized the show was almost over. Nina's death I also wasn't too crazy about. Her flashback in the finale makes you feel such an intense amount of sympathy for her. Since she's the character being focused on in the final episode, it feels like we're leading to a big moment with her. The Commandos all encourage her and she goes out to kill the princess. Then before she's able to, the princess is alerted and she's murdered, not having accomplished anything. After this happens, we seemingly learn the Commandos made a mistake.
We made a mistake.
Until it's realized minutes later that the princess actually was gonna start World War III all along. It seems like Nina was purely created to propel the bride's character. While I don't mind a character existing to support another, I still want a character to have a purpose beyond propelling somebody else's. And this brings me to my larger issue with the show, which is that it kind of all felt pointless at the end. While it technically wasn't, because the team did stop a very real threat, the way it was presented still felt a little unsatisfying. We don't really get to see what the princess's plans are or how she would execute them. Just a vague vision of a desolate future with dead heroes. Because we don't understand how the princess will accomplish any of this, the stakes don't feel as tense. And additionally, throughout most of the runtime, we're led to question whether the princess is even an actual threat until the ending of the final episode, making it tough to even root for our protagonists when they are initially sent to kill her. While I did start to latch on to the hints with Flag being overly protective of the princess, and the fact that the princess clearly wanted Cersei dead, The more it went on, the more I started to believe Cersei might have actually lied. If the stakes were more consistent and ever-present and Nina got a moment before she died to accomplish something or inspire someone, I think it would have done a lot to make the show as a whole feel more satisfying. When the group finally gets together, they break into the comm tower, break through a wall,
This may take a while.
hide in some bushes, and then Nina gets killed. A few tweaks to raise the stakes and give each character bigger moments would have done a lot for me. Maybe in like a 40-minute finale, but as is, the ending felt a little bit lackluster. I do quickly want to touch on something I really do like about the show, which is its world building. Throughout the runtime, there are a ton of references to the wider DC universe being built up by DC Studios right now, and I gotta applaud how it was all integrated. It was able to establish places like Themyscira, Star City, Metropolis, and Gotham naturally, while also setting up a world of metahumans.
Meta-human.
Characters like Sergeant Rock, Batman, Clayface, Cersei, and so on fit in seamlessly rather than being set up for future projects. They feel more common, which allows bombastic characters to exist without extensive explanations. This DC universe is truly a fictional world, and Creature Commandos did a great job at showing us that. Overall, I did enjoy watching this show week to week. I was really engaged with each episode, slowly getting to know these interesting characters, but it just didn't all come together perfectly in the end. I like the new team they've set up, and I'm still interested to see what they're going to do with Season 2, as again, individually, a lot of these episodes were great, so if they build up to a better climax in Season 2, I think that would be a really solid season of television. Oh, I forgot to give this a rating. I guess I'm going to rate stuff, but, I mean, media is so subjective. Am I really going to give out just a singular number to represent my entire thoughts on every single project that I want to talk about? Yeah, 7 out of 10.